Minutes past 9.
The Geek Show.
It's thegeekshow.com, 2 3s rather than 2 E's. Chelfyn joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Chelfyn.
Good morning, Wammo.
Today, talking about getting Kiwis into space. Well, bits of Kiwis, I suppose. Kiwi ingenuity into space.
Yes, and at some point Kiwi ashes, but mainly Kiwi ingenuity.
Yeah.
And getting the Kiwis into the space race.
So sending a rocket into space that doesn't come from NASA, Russia, China or North Korea.
No. And also doesn't come from a government or military budget, but is a private rocket, which is excellent.
Oh, we love this idea. Tell us about it. Who's doing it?
Well, it's from a company called Rocket Lab, which is a Kiwi company being funded by Mark Rocket. Perfect name for the job.
He got his name changed to that.
Rocket.
Yeah, that's right. He did too. He got it changed by Depot, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is just shows his passion for it. He's a successful internet entrepreneur, and he's joined with Peter Beck, an award-winning scientist and engineer who's been working on this design for over 15 years. And on November 30th, they're aiming to launch a Tier 1 rocket. It will be the first privately built rocket launched from the Southern Hemisphere to enter space. And it's going to kickstart a Southern Hemisphere commercial space program, hopefully.
Well, the first question, I suppose, would be why send a rocket? I mean, there's no person strapped to it, so why send it up?
Well, really, if you look at what was going on in the space race 40, 50 years ago when they were trying to get men into space, it tied in very nicely with what the military were doing, which was trying to get, warheads into space. Money that was put into one project would help each other. And there's no real commercial need for that. This is one of the reasons, I think, why the shuttle program has gone off track, why the space race has died out. Because essentially it was a military program that they were trying to get some sort of commercial use from. But what's been happening is a lot of the commercial scientific projects have been basically backing up. Loads and loads of them wait for rocket launch, and then dozens to hundreds of them go off in a single huge rocket launch. But the projects have been getting smaller and smaller, like our mobile phones. The future isn't bigger. It's much, much smaller than we expected.
Yeah.
So there's no need for gigantic rockets, but there is need to get small scientific packages up into space. Now, I'd just like to stress that this rocket, which is pretty small, apparently you can carry it under your arm. Or,
really?
Half of it, anyway, yeah.
It's a firecracker. It's a
very big firecracker.
Yeah.
With some very clever fuel.
Yeah.
They've actually developed their own hybrid fuel technology, which is basically how can I put it? It's I've got my notes in here in front of me, and I've suddenly got lost.
Because obviously
it's
they're
polymer-based fuel.
Oh, it's a what place fuel?
They then. Sorry, I'm talking over.
Sorry, go ahead. What kind of fuel is it?
It's a polymer-based fuel, so it's inert until they basically add the nitrous oxide, which it combusts with. And at that point, they get a 3,200 horsepower lift from it. Now, the rocket engine only weighs 13 kilograms. So what they're looking at, basically, from this small rocket is the ability to get a 2-kilogram package up to 120 kilometers, which is 20 kilometers above what is regarded as the edge of space,
right,
which is the Kármán line. It's an arbitrary boundary, but it's where there's hardly any air left, and you're in space. But this is suborbital, which means it will come back down again.
Okay, so it'll come down via parachute? Do they know where it'll come down?
Yeah, they've been working on their tracking systems, and GPS is kind of cheap and easy these days. So both the rocket bodies and the payloads can be tracked and picked up from landings on land or sea.
Yeah. Now, on the video stream, if anyone's watching the video stream, you're watching a wee animation of how they think it's going to work. Now, Chelfyn, as we know from the early pioneers of rocket launches back in the 50s and 60s, often these things exploded just after they got off the ground. So I guess they're hoping that that's not going to happen in this case.
Well, yeah. They've done some successful tests of the engine. They've had nominal results from their burns. It seems a fairly simple and safe design. So, fingers crossed they won't have a problem with it exploding. Some of the problems with rockets exploding in the past have been down to very difficult fuels that they have to deal with, very complicated rocket nozzle designs and things like that. But they seem to have got a nice, simple design for this. The complexity really comes in with the fuel and the development of the fuel, but what they've developed seems to be a very safe fuel if it's not actually in the combustion nozzle, at which point it's brilliant. It's exploding at just the right level of exploding to make this thing go up.
Now, it's one of the big aims here to basically put a rocket into orbit that's in a more efficient way than anyone else has been able to do.
Yeah, it's basically to get away from the old designs of big metal things. This is primarily made of lightweight carbon fiber components until you get to the bits where it gets hot. And then instead of metal, they're using, once again, this is very early in the morning, they're using more of a, what's the word?
Is it going to be more lightweight or?
Yes, lightweight. Sorry, this is terrible of me. I've completely forgotten the word for ceramics. That's it, ceramic-based engine parts, which has been brilliant. They've been able to develop those here. And because America won't sell things like rocket nozzles from abroad, they've had to develop their own. And it looks like they could be selling these bits back to NASA in the future.
Yeah, well, I suppose. Are these guys looking for jobs in NASA, and this is the way to do it? This is what you could put this on their resume.
No, I think all the people involved here are pretty passionate about getting it going here.
Yeah.
The sort of project that's going here makes NASA look very old-fashioned. This is done with small project teams, with collaborators like Air New Zealand, University of Auckland. Engineering firms like Applied Engineering Research and RPM Engineering, things like that. And even a company called Celestis, which is a company that is a memorial spaceflight company to put people's ashes into space.
Yeah. Now, there was a chap, I'm going to forget his name, but there was a chap in the Waikato who was designing, I think, rockets for missiles. This is back in, I think, in the 90s now. And he got a lot of concern from the US because they don't like anyone else around the world designing, potential weapons and stuff. I just wonder if
they hate anybody getting in on their near monopoly of space.
Exactly. So I just wonder if there's been any concern that these guys have received. I mean, perhaps we wouldn't know, but about what they're doing.
Not that I'm aware of, but hopefully, given the Kiwi attitude to things like this, like the Kiwi attitude to the Americans wanting to put nuclear missiles over here, or nuclear bases and things, and we told them to stuff off.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll just tell them to stuff off on this one.
Yeah.
The thing is, this whole program really, it's very commercial and scientific. It's got nothing to do with military projects. The payloads on the first rockets, they're looking at 2 kilograms up to 70 kilograms on the planned Tier 2, and this is very much the sort of program required to put scientific payloads up to space. And what I'd like to see is the modern equivalent of putting a man into space, which has got nothing to do with putting physical people there, but everything to do with putting an internet-controlled telepresence robot into space. So I'd like to lay this out as a challenge to them, actually. In fact, a challenge to anybody in the commercial space arena. If you can get something up into space which someone can sit on their computer, stick on a headset and look out through cameras, move their hands in some Waldo gloves, and then move, the arms of that robot, then they've got something up there that could, albeit a bit smaller probably, do the work of an astronaut without risking anyone's life, without having to take up all the air they need to breathe, all the food they need to eat, the life support systems, the space they need. It's, humans are pretty inefficient for going up into space.
Yeah.
And when we're only talking about orbital distances, the time delays aren't anything like, if we were trying to control something on Mars, we're talking about light minutes away.
Yeah.
Here we're talking about, under light seconds away. So we should be able to control this stuff, with very little lag, almost like a computer game.
Well, the challenge has been laid by you, Chelfyn.
Indeed.
Yes, thank you very much for telling us about this. The show notes are available up at thegeekshow.com, 2 3s rather than 2 E's. There's a whole lot of links there as well to the official pages of Rocket Lab. We go check that out. And also, this is the video once more. Thanks, Chelfyn. Catch you next time.
Catch you next